psychological integration of the human being. This is a very important point, but is yet comparatively unnoticed. Yet if you go through the old mythologies, you go through the old imageries, you find very often a lunar crescent tied into the hair of the god Shiva, or one of the other ancient deities. Not simply because it is a human principle, but because it is a principle of fascination, a principle that was captured by the Greeks and the goddess Diana, the huntress, and in many other religious symbols and systems. Now the human being, being as he is a composite of the elements of the solar system, is constituted very much like the solar system in its principles. If we can completely study his magnetic field and the entire auric structure behind the body, we will see that we are in the presence of a little solar system, as Baby pointed out. The whole solar system is located, or is epitomized, in the human structure. Therefore, there is a spiritual source of energy in man, which corresponds to the first of the three invisible suns. There is a mystical or vital force, a secondary sun, invisible, corresponding to the soul. In this man is also equipped. Then there is the physical sun in man, by means of which all of the body functions are maintained within his own structure, much as in the same way as in the solar system itself. The three suns in man are the heart, the brain, and the reproductive center, and these are the principal administrators of energy. There is also a psychic field associated with the solar plexus, which again becomes the counterpart of the lunar influence. All of these factors, taken into consideration, would form a very interesting study. And it's more or less of a pity that modern thinkers haven't recognized the dramatic importance of trying to investigate the invisible. Locked within the visible, and yet at the same time fully aware that the visible is suspended from something they cannot see. Too many learned persons simply discard the possibility of the parallels which might be of the greatest value in solving human problems. Actually, our problem this morning is essentially how we're going to use this energy. We have therefore three legitimate forms of energy that we have to use, and one doubtful form. We have a spiritual energy, which of course actually is available to us in only one way. And that way is through the complete harmonization of the structure of which we are composed. Spiritual energy can only manifest on its own level. Therefore, it can only manifest in organisms in which all factors or circumstances that are contrary to spirit have been overcome or eliminated. Therefore, it becomes a pure supporter of man's most vital, invisible, unknown factor, his own spirit. The spirit is not only the source of his life, but it is also the central point in which the energy of his life is suspended. Therefore, the spiritual sun, being the highest, manifesting through a triad of energy factors, becomes the source of all energy and is related to the cosmic and space energy in its largest and most abstract fields. Now, the secondary is which you might call the rational energies. These have to do with the mind, with the development of the body, with the laws and rules governing knowledge, with the expansion of arts and sciences, with the supporting of ideals, convictions, integrities. Here is where we have one of our major difficulties. We have within the individual the possibility of using these energies as he himself chooses to use them. As a result of that, these energies are often in conflict. And where this conflict exists, it becomes a major factor in the depletion of the physical resources of the individual. The conflicts between attitudes, then, become one of the major sources of the depletion of the energy which maintains the human being on the people today are making quite a project out of becoming spiritual. They hope very much that they're going to be able to transcend the limitations of problems of daily living. Very many of these people, however, are not doing too well. One of the main reasons is that they have not placed a proper censorship upon their own conduct. Individuals who are seeking spiritual integrity and spiritual values cannot compromise the ordinary affairs of life. The individual who is still seeking power, seeking wealth, seeking superiority, yearns to join a kind of spiritual aristocracy by which he is better than ordinary mortals. This type of person is not gaining anything from his efforts to be spiritual. No amount of discipline, no amount of dedication can overcome weaknesses of conduct. The main point always is to build conduct, to bring the energy fields into balance, and to conserve all resources so that energy is available for the highest possible purposes, so that this energy is available almost completely for the unfoldment, discipline, and growth of the higher nature itself. Where most of this energy is still used in bickering and conflicts in the personal life and on the personal level of action, there cannot be very much essential spirituality floating around. Now, the energy that's getting into trouble is largely emotional energy. It is the energy of the second sun. It is the energy of the emotional mental being. Therefore, very largely, let me return to individuality. It is this type of energy that is the person as we know it today. And it is this person that is in trouble. And this person remains in trouble as long as he attempts to advance his personality and his personal purposes without consideration for his integrity. People come to me quite frequently with these problems. One of the most common, of course, is the individual who is trying desperately to be spiritual and has finally come to the conclusion that by some circumstance, membership of something of this nature, he has finally found that superiority. He has finally found what others seek in vain, and that is the possibility of a unique attainment in spiritual growth. He is going to be better than other people, wiser, more wonderful. He is going to have a strange superiority over everything else. In other words, he is bound towards an achievement of spiritual aristocracy. He wishes to be an aristocrat in the celestial kingdom. This is not possible. It is a deadly mistake and a terrible waste of energy. The Zen people are much wiser in this. They realize that energy that is held in suspension and therefore is not motivating any destructive action is the most important energy of all. The energy that we use is mostly abused, but the energy that we hold in a transitional state, that we hold in a suspension, is available but not necessarily used until it is needed. So all energy should be stored, not wasted. But when the time comes when it should be used fully and adequately. We need all available energy with which to grow. We need all available energy to serve our brother man. We own so little in this world that our energy is not to be directed upon our possessions, but upon the improvement of the society to which we belong. All selfishness ends in a short circuit in the energy fields of the human body. Every abuse of energy has its karmic consequence, and karma is largely a matter of compensation for abuse. Whereas if the individual does not break the rules, he does not have to worry about the karmic reactions. But karmic reactions are always punishment for broken rules. And we need to bear this in mind constantly, because in an effort to misuse the purposes for which we were intended, we get into very serious complications. one of the most uncomplicated thinkers in all time, I guess, was Confucius. Confucius was perfectly aware of what constituted a superior person. This superior person was a completely self-disciplined person. But he was not disciplined in a way that showed as discipline. He wasn't unkind to himself. He did not flagellate himself literally or symbolically. He did not become an austere, detached, antisocial character. The Confucian superior man was a perfectly adjusted person, not a person who was subject to various types of over-discipline or over-self-control. Confucius enjoyed life. He regretted that other scholars did not rise to cooperate in the reformation of China, but he did what he could, and he became notable for a very sincere, superior kind of living. In the recent regimes in China, he was cast aside as ancient and outlived and outworn. In the last 5 years, however, he has come back to become probably the ideal of Chinese character, namely perfect poise, integrity, warm sympathy, but everything under control. Nothing getting away, no temper fits, no outbursts.